All right, good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar on the National Partnership for Student Success. I'm Kate Cochran and I'm with the National Partnership for Student Success Support Hub, which is based at the Everyone Graduates Center at Johns Hopkins University School of Education. During today's webinar, I'll provide an overview of the NPSS, our current and upcoming goals, and provide you with some information on how to get involved in this work. So the National Partnership for Student Success, or NPSS as we're calling it, is a 3-year effort that is led by the Biden-Harris administration, including the US Department of Education, AmeriCorps, and partnering with the Everyone Graduates Center at Johns Hopkins, and a coalition of about 100 organizations that are committed to providing the academic, mental health, and other supports that our young people today need to succeed, given the unprecedented challenges that students, schools, and educators have faced as a result of the pandemic. We all know that students, families, educators, schools, and communities are facing unprecedented challenges today, a few of which you see on my screen. Many of these challenges we know existed long before the pandemic, but really have been exacerbated in many cases and highlight on a national scale the importance of supporting students and schools in recovery efforts. So at the same time as we have these unprecedented challenges, we're thinking about how to address these challenges during a time of unprecedented investment in the field of education through the American Rescue Plan, which presents some unique opportunities to reimagine what our education system looks like and how it really supports students. So with some more detail, the National Partnership for Student Success brings together schools, districts, parents, federal, state, and local government agencies, AmeriCorps programs, as well as state service commissions, nonprofits, and others around the common goal of getting more trained people to support students in high impact and evidence-based roles, both in school and in out of school time contexts, so that students can not only recover from the impacts of the pandemic, but succeed and thrive over the long term. The NPSS was launched at the White House on July 5th, so fairly recently, alongside a call to action for an additional 250,000 Americans to become tutors, mentors, student success coaches, post-secondary transition coaches, or college advisors, or wraparound or integrated student support coordinators. And this is a 3-year goal. So depending on the setting, people who are in these roles may be volunteers, or they may be full or part-time employees, and they work side by side with teachers and youth work professionals, as well as other professionals who are already both in school and in out of school time settings. And we're focused specifically on these 5 roles because for each of them, evidence exists indicating that they can result in a range of positive outcomes for students, from academic growth to improved connections between school and student and school, or in student and community, as well as improved student mental health and well-being, and reductions in chronic absenteeism, so that the students are actually getting into the building to receive the range of services and supports that schools provide. These supports aside. And the NPSS has begun to support school districts, AmeriCorps state service commissions, local and state government agencies, and both national and community-based nonprofit organizations that are providing student supports like these. And really working with these organizations or entities to increase the number of students who are receiving evidence-based and people-powered student supports based on locally determined needs. We know that this isn't going to look the same in every community, and what every community needs or wants is not the same. And this is kind of the menu of supports that we think folks should consider as they plan for the future. So over the last several months, the NPSS has built a pretty diverse coalition, including the approximately 100 organizations that you see on my screen to support this national effort. As you can see, our supporting champions, as we call them, include a range of organizations from around the country, including national associations and networks that represent key stakeholders in this work, such as teachers unions, principals and superintendents associations, parents associations, and associations of nonprofits that support youth in a range of ways. Our coalition also includes a range of nonprofit organizations that provide direct services in one or more of the MPSS evidence-based focused areas, either at the national level with affiliates or at the regional or local level. Our coalition also includes AmeriCorps programs, some state service commissions, state after-school networks, educator preparation programs and related associations, education researchers, and other leaders in education, youth development, and national service. And more broadly, it's a collaboration between kind of 4 key stakeholder groups. So between the federal government, including partners at AmeriCorps and the US Department of Education, as well as the White House Domestic Policy Council. Also a nonprofit support hub at the Everyone Graduates Center at Johns Hopkins University, where I am based, and a diverse set of champion organizations committed to supporting youth, educators, schools, and communities. And then of course, our key stakeholders of schools, districts, communities, parents, and students. So we really believe that by equitably providing students with relationships and learning that enable them to thrive, the MPSS, which will be composed largely of Americans working through local organizations that are rooted in communities, we think that we can do a few things. So first, we believe that we can mitigate many of the effects of lost instructional time by re-engaging and supporting students. We believe that we can relieve some of the educator, school leader, and parent overwhelm that exists today, in particular by providing additional people-powered student supports to students and to schools. We believe we can support districts, schools, and community organizations to create and sustain durable partnerships, leveraging existing assets within communities. We believe we can provide pathways to productive work for adults who are called to national service and to the fields of education and youth work more broadly. And finally, we believe that an effort like this has strong potential to accelerate student academic and mental health recovery into thriving. And we see the MPSS as meeting not only a critical need today that many students, schools, and communities are facing, but over the long term, we see this as a bridge to an education system that really provides supportive learning environments for all young people and that focuses holistically on the whole child and students' academic learning, as well as mental health, well-being, and social needs. And we also aim for this to create an education system that prioritizes relationships and engagement and rich learning experiences, that builds the pipeline of people who are going into education as a field, as well as the other youth serving professions. We believe that this could create an education system that includes all the places that young people learn and thrive, that extends beyond school walls, and also that fully resources all students and communities to thrive. So as I just mentioned, we see the MPSS as a strategy for the country to strengthen the pipeline of future educators through service and practical opportunities for adults to support students. So we believe that the MPSS can support the field, increasing the number of adults entering the pipeline who are committed to serving children and youth. Prospective educators are more inclined to see the potential of the teaching profession when they see current teachers being supported and developed in their practice. And also service through AmeriCorps can create effective, diverse, and sustainable pipelines of talent into education and youth work for people who already, through their year of service or years of service, have gained valuable experience working in school contexts or in other contexts where they're supporting students, families, and communities. And finally, we really believe that MPSS can help to ensure that staff and schools reflect the diversity of the communities that they serve and that it can provide more novice professionals with experience working in school settings that will better prepare them for entry into more traditional educator preparation programs and the teaching profession over the long term. So we've established a nonprofit support hub that is housed at the Everyone Graduates Center at Johns Hopkins and is supported by private philanthropy to do a couple things. So we support, convene, and train NPSS affiliated organizations through events, through webinars like this. We provide technical assistance to NPSS stakeholders, including state and local government agencies, school districts, nonprofits, and others who are providing, who are looking to implement, expand, or improve programs in one or more of those, the 5 evidence-based focus areas. And we're also doing a lot of work to support people in the field in recruiting more people into these 5 evidence-based roles. So at the beginning of this webinar, I talked about this big goal of 250,000 additional people going into these roles over the next 3 years. It's a big goal, and we're doing a lot of, at the hub, we're doing a lot of thinking about where those additional people might come from and how we can create conditions where people, where we believe they're big untapped sources of people power, so to speak, who could be interested in these types of roles. How can we create conditions for them to enter these roles in a way that is as easy and as supported as possible? So we're thinking about how we can engage college students, to name a couple of examples, thinking about how we can engage college students through federal work study funding, for credit programs, civic engagement clubs, and other ways that great models already exist for how college students are supporting communities in this way. We're thinking about corporate volunteers and how they could contribute to some of these roles in a way that's sustainable. Thinking about working with large volunteer organizations to incentivize some of the millions of Americans who already volunteer every year into more high impact roles. So for example, somebody who does an annual day of service, how we could support that person to maybe engage in more regular volunteer opportunities to support students or a student in their community. We're thinking about engaging older Americans and retirees through AmeriCorps Seniors and other similar programs. And we're thinking about high school students and how we might engage them in CTE programs, near peer mentoring, or other roles where high school students can be well trained, supported, and supervised to support their peers or younger students. And finally, the NPSS Support Hub here is organizing philanthropy, corporations, and others to contribute long-term funding to NPSS affiliated organizations to expand their capacity and their work. A little bit more on the technical assistance that I mentioned. Technical assistance at the NPSS Support Hub is provided to schools, districts, state or local government agencies, and nonprofit organizations that are looking to either design, implement, expand, or improve programs that leverage people in one or more of these 5 evidence-based roles. It could just be one, it could be 2, it could be all. And at the Everyone Graduates Center, we partnered with 6 leading organizations who are experts in their respective focus area to actually provide this technical assistance to organizations and schools around the country. And so these include Accelerate and the National Student Support Accelerator for tutoring, City Year for student success coaching, Communities in Schools for wraparound and integrated student support coordination, the National College Attainment Network, or NCAN, for post-secondary transition coaching, and Mentor for mentoring. Each of these, we selected each of these organizations and partnered with them because of their national networks, reach, and expertise. But that said, it doesn't mean that if you're looking to implement a student success coaching program that you have to use City Year core members, for example. Really, it's an expert at City Year providing guidance and resources on how an individual school, community, or nonprofit might think about implementing these types of supports. And so, as I mentioned on a previous slide, or I think it was on the slide, I might not have spoken to it. At the hub, we're also working to send some signals about what we mean by quality in each of these 5 evidence-based roles. And so we're in the process of working to develop a set of voluntary quality standards to help ensure that we, one, have a clear definition of what we mean by quality in each of these 5 focus areas, as well as across programs. And 2, can make it easier for school and district leaders to make decisions about selecting quality providers in their communities. These standards are being developed as we speak by a working group that consists of representatives from each of the technical assistance lead organizations that I just mentioned, as well as experts in youth development. And really with this group, we're taking a build upon rather than a build anew approach with these, because really each of the standards in each category are based on existing standards that are research-based and already exist and are widely adhered to in the field. And so we're working to finalize these over the course of the next couple of months. And we'll share more information about that as it becomes available. But specifically, these quality standards are meant to ensure that affiliated approaches and programs are grounded in the science of learning and development, that they are truly evidence-based, holistic, and attend to young people's integrated academic, social, and mental health needs, that they're affirmative of students at different developmental stages and of different racial, socioeconomic, and cultural and linguistic backgrounds, that they're aligned with each community's needs and chosen approach to recovery, while also thinking about what long-term sustainability looks like. So more to come there. As the coalition works to address some of the complex challenges at hand, I wanted to highlight a few priorities that we at the MPSS are currently focused on over the short to medium term. These aren't our only goals, but really this is what we're focused on right now in the fall of 2022. And these include, first, really amplifying and elevating the MPSS, bringing more people into our coalition so that we can benefit mutually from our network of networks, and also energizing our champion organizations and the coalition, both at the national, state, and local levels. Second, we're doing a lot of thinking about how to actually increase the supply of people who can serve in these roles across these 5 NPSS domains. So doing a lot of work on strategy around colleges and universities and engaging college students, strategy around engaging older Americans, et cetera. That's a big focus for us. Third, we're beginning to connect school districts, community partners, and student support organizations at the state and local level about how to do this work in their particular context. And then, as I mentioned before, developing this set of voluntary quality standards that is a key piece of what we're working on currently. So there are a few ways to get involved. I know that folks who are on this call come from a range of backgrounds, organizations, companies. So for organizations that are interested in either implementing new programs, expanding existing programs, or improving existing programs in one or more of those 5 focus areas that I mentioned, I encourage you to request technical assistance from the MPSS Support Hub. Technical assistance is free and can be provided to schools, districts, state and local government agencies or entities, and nonprofit organizations. So I just put the link in the chat. Next, if you are a nonprofit organization or a public entity or agency that is interested in joining our coalition, joining that group of about 100 organizations that shares information on a regular basis about how we will achieve the goals of the MPSS, I encourage you to apply to be a supporting champion of the National Partnership for Student Success. This is a fairly quick process that I will put in the chat. I will also follow up via email with each of these links. Next, we've partnered with the Ready Set Coalition, which is a collaboration between the CAA Foundation, Mentor, Volunteer Match, and AmeriCorps to make it easier for individuals to find volunteer opportunities that are focused on tutoring, mentoring, or national service via AmeriCorps. I encourage you to, if you yourself are looking for service opportunities, to check out this link, or if you are a nonprofit, state, district, community leader who is looking for volunteers to serve as mentors or tutors, I encourage you to post your positions here. It is free for nonprofit organizations. I encourage you to check this out. We know that volunteers are one piece of the puzzle here. Many people in these roles will be volunteers. We also anticipate that many of them will be National Service Corps members who receive a stipend or paid full or part-time employees. But being able to connect individuals with service opportunities is a big deal for us. So I encourage you to check that out. I also encourage you to follow the NPSS on social media. New resources, new events, and other announcements are generally made via social media, as well as via our social media handles are on my screen, and as well as via our newsletter, which is, the link is in the chat. And then finally, I encourage you to share examples of bright spots or examples of how your organization, your district, your program is already supporting students in these ways. A big part of what we are doing to amplify this work in our early months of the coalition is showing people that this work is possible, and there are actually great models for how people are already doing this successfully. And there are great people to learn from, that there are lessons learned that we as a field can benefit from. So I encourage you, if you have bright spots to share, reach out to us and share those bright spots. There's no particular format. Feel free to reach out just even for a conversation. And we'd love to hear about your existing work. And finally, we are midway through a series of 5 webinars that are really focused on kind of 101 basics of each of the 5 student support categories. I will put links in the chat for each of these so that you have them. Our next 2 that have not yet taken place, we have a webinar in partnership with Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnership, on October 26th. That will really focus on what some of the elements of high quality mentoring are, and why this matters, why people should consider this as a student support they might be interested in. And then we'll be hosting a webinar with the National College Attainment Network on November 2nd, focused on post-secondary transition coaching. We have recordings for 2 of our past webinars that I just shared in the chat. Our additional recording on wraparound and integrated student supports is not yet available, but by the time I share this recording, it should be. So I'll be able to share that link with you as well via email. And with that, I want to thank you for joining this overview. In our last 5 minutes, I would love to, if you have questions, please feel free to add them to the Q&A feature here. And I will do my best to answer them.